Please settle down, everyone. Respected dignitaries, esteemed guests, and all dear friends, a very good evening to all of you. It is with great honor that I welcome you to this Professor Ram Takwale Memorial Lecture 2025. This annual gathering is a tribute to a visionary academician, philosopher, Professor Ram Takwale, whose ideas and actions shaped the very foundation of open learning, flexible learning, and learner-centric education in India. He was not only a pioneer in distance learning, open learning, but also a thinker far ahead of his times. He was deeply committed to making education more accessible, more democratic, and meaningful. His legacy continues to inspire all of us at MKCL and beyond. We are truly privileged to have with us this evening Shri Kiran Karnik, former president of NASSCOM, a distinguished leader in technology development and our keynote speaker for today. Also, we have Dr. Anil Kakodkar, chairman of MKCL and former chairman of Atomic Energy Commission of India, who will preside over this evening and today's event. We are also graced by the presence of board members, eminent dignitaries, personalities, Padma Shri Dr. Vijay Bhatkar sir, and all other eminent personalities from various sectors in Pune and around. I also welcome all those vice chancellors and other dignitaries who have connected with us through live session, because this session is being telecasted live through YouTube channel. So I welcome you all. To begin this evening on a very warm and gracious note, I now request Shri Samir Pandey, Managing Director of MKCL, to kindly felicitate Shri Kiran Karnik sir and Dr. Anil Kakodkar sir with a small token of love. Samir sir, I request you to also felicitate and welcome Dr. Anil Kakodkar sir. I now request MKCL's Chief Mentor, Vivek Sawant sir, to felicitate Dr. Vijay Bhatkar sir. It is good to have you, sir, here. Well, to open this session and the reflections that lie ahead, and also to offer a perspective which is rooted in the vision and also the legacy, I now invite Shri Vivek Sawant sir, Chief Mentor of MKCL, to offer his introductory remarks. Having worked with Professor Ram Takwale, he brings a unique perspective to this distinguished lecture series, which is held in his memory. So I request Shri Vivek Sawant sir to offer his introductory remarks. Thank you.
Honorable Dr. Kakodkar, Honorable Shri Kiran Karnik, Honorable Dr. Bhatkar, I am very delighted to also welcome Mrs. Kakodkar, members of the Board of Directors of MKCL and other dignitaries. First of all, I express my deep gratitude towards Shri Kiran Karnik to have accepted our invitation very instantly and all the way traveled from Delhi to deliver this very important talk. I also thank Dr. Kakodkar to invite Dr. Karnik and also preside over this function. Thanks are also due to him because he delivered the first Professor Takwale Memorial Lecture last year, which has been published and shall be accessible to you on the net. That lecture laid before us a program of silage, and that is going to be MKCL's mission from 2025 to 2035. This lecture had 16 important points as takeaways, and we had to work relentlessly to plan how to go ahead. So it gave us a roadmap, and perhaps today's lecture will do the similar mission objectives for us. I also welcome Dr. Bhatkar, because he's like Professor Takwale, he's also one of the founders of MKCL. And while Professor Takwale gave the educational and social foundations of MKCL, Dr. Bhatkar offered the technological and spiritual foundations of MKCL, especially by bringing the vision of the saints of Maharashtra, like Jnaneshwar and Tukaram. In fact, we had a long discussion, Professor Takwale, myself, Dr. Bhatkar, and Sri Kisan Maharaj Sakre, who unfortunately is no more with us now, on what should be the motto of MKCL. And then after a long discussion, it was decided that Jnanadipa Lau Jagi was decided as the motto of MKCL. And I remember that electrifying moment when Dr. Bhatkar opened his pen, and he used to use a green ink, and he suddenly wrote the English translation of it, that is creating a knowledge-lit world. So, and immediately thereafter, he also wrote another mission objective, is solving the puzzle of IT literacy. And sir, I must tell you that for last 24 years, we are still solving it. And every day we remember him because of that. And in that discussion, I remember that we had deep philosophical discussions on what is jnana, what is jnata, and what is neja, and what is adneja, and what is the interrelationship between jnana, jnata, and neya, and how either of them influences the other and gets influenced by the other. So, with those words, I welcome you, sir. The purpose of this series, this lecture series, is to remember the very glorious and joyful moments with Professor Takwale, his intellectual and affectionate company, revisiting his ideas and thoughts and his paradigms in the changing context in the world. Also reaffirming our firm resolve to propagate his vision further for the welfare of the commons. He truly believed that he was a great critic of the existing education system. And he believed that in the vision of Sir Ken Robinson, that this education system promotes competition, it promotes the conformity, and it promotes class creation. It also promotes the divide among powerless few and powerful few and powerless commons. So he used to repeat his critique of Ken Robinson and then find a solution, to see the source of solution in the ideas of many educationists. He had deep influence on him of Tagore, Phule, Ambedkar, also Buddha, and more profound influence on him was of Gandhi, Paulo Freire, and Professor Ram Reddy. Professor Ram Reddy was the first one to propagate the vision of workers' university in India, and he actually influenced Mrs. Indira Gandhi's thinking on this. And finally, he created after Mrs. Gandhi passed away, the Indira Gandhi National Open University. So Professor Ram Reddy had deep influence on Professor Takwale, and that is why Professor Takwale, moved away from the mainstream higher education and became the doyen of open learning in Maharashtra, which created later on the Yashwantrao Chauhan Maharashtra Open University, whose vice chancellor, Professor Sonone, is amongst us. and more importantly, Professor Takwale believed that Gandhi's Nai Talim can be reinterpreted in 21st century as education for development. Because in Nai Talim, Gandhiji believed that the only medium of acquisition of knowledge is not the books, or in present terms, if I have to say, not YouTube or Google or ChatGPT or TED Talks. Gandhiji firmly believed that the only medium of acquisition of knowledge and creation of new knowledge is socially useful and productive work. So you begin from work and develop knowledge, acquire knowledge out of that work, so that the work doesn't become an alienating kind of drudgery, but it becomes a joyful human enterprise in which you develop, extract knowledge out of it, and knowledge not just for the sake of knowledge or knowledge consumerism, but apply that knowledge to make that work more profound. So he had imagined building an upward spiral, an ever expanding spiral of work to knowledge and knowledge to more profound work. And that was completely destroying this Western industrial model of education of the competition, the conformity, class creation, and the divide. So Professor Takwale firmly believed in this, and he became the real intellectual successor of Dr. J.P. Naik. J.P. Naik and Paulo Freire were another predominant influences on Professor Takwale's thinking and his work and his mission. And J.P. Naik used to always believe and used to say that, all decisions in education are political decisions. So he focused on the political economy of education. And at the same time, he used to observe that while that is true, but there was a question of the education literacy of the politicians. So on one hand, all the decisions concentrate with them. On the other hand, there is the issue of their literacy. So J.P. Naik used to always profoundly advocate the stand that the educationists must have very meaningful dialogue with the politicians who are policymakers. Many of you will feel that anyway, we always see the educationists having the dialogues with politicians, but those dialogues are normally reduced to issues related to power, positions, and perks. Okay, whereas J.P. Naik wanted the dialogue to happen on the policy for pro-people education. Professor Takwale relentlessly followed this direction and had very meaningful dialogues, very serious ones, very frank ones, and I used to witness many of them with, especially with Mr. Sharad Pawar. Of course, in the previous stints, he also had similar dialogues with Narasimha Rao, and then Mr. Arjun Singh, then Mr. Madhavrao Sindhia, and many others, even Mr. Sadiq Ali, and many others. And he used to be so childlike and transparent and open and frank, and being a perfect theoretical physicist. He taught me general theory of relativity. So with that theoretical rigor, with that abstraction, and with deep concern for the commons. That was Professor Takwale. And it created a sort of a DNA of MKCL. I learned many things in those dialogues and discussions, especially that we should make the education for development and for empowerment of commons. That was the first thing. That became one of the very integral part of the DNA of MKCL. Another thing is that, he inherited one thought from J.P. Naik and took it forward. And that was that all this problem in education, why it doesn't lead to radical transformation of education, why it tries to continue the same old Macaulay's system, is because the Education Commission, like J.P. Naik observed in his later book, Education Commission and After, that the very responsibility of radical transformation by virtue of that report and by the policies emanating out of it was given to the teachers and administrators which belong to the system and the government. Now the forces which are engaged and more having a vested interest in perpetuating the system, how can they create a radical transformation? And that was the shortcoming of that. And that exactly became the distinguishing feature of formation of MKCL, that we must create an entity which should not be bogged down by the governmental, or the present education system's vested interest, so that we can be free for transformation. And you are seeing the effect of MKCL. Now we will be entering the 25th year very soon. So that is how these two components of DNA of MKCL were given by Professor Takwale by following the intellectual legacy of so many people, right from Gandhi to J.P. Naik and Paulo Freire and many others. Very important thing J.P. Naik observed is that such a revolution in education can be possible only if it goes hand in hand with the social, economic and cultural transformations which are happening in society parallelly. We should not be distressed or being inert observers or turning blind eye towards what is happening in society. That led to his belief that unless there is a transformation, fundamental transformation taking place in society, it will be difficult to create similar transformation in education. And Professor Takwale extended the thought of J.P. Naik in this sense, and that was that he was the first person to theorize upon what is happening in the digital world. The unfolding of digital society and post-digital society was that revolution which is taking place in the society, which is changing all aspects of social, individual, professional, social, cultural life of the people. And that is the revolution which should be the sort of a vanguard to create the educational revolution. So the interplay between technological revolution and the educational transformation was correctly captured and theorized upon by Professor Takwale, and that became the direction in which MKCL is going ahead. Finally, he also believed that you have to create a picture for the new society. Imagine a picture for a new society. Link all the learning experiences of the students to that picture. Interestingly, that picture should connect with the socio-economic or cultural transformation which are happening, especially because of the strong technological intervention and now because of the AI. And create commons, create common wealth to pay for free and open education which will lead to development, free and open education for the masses. And finally, in that system, everyone, all stakeholders must be actors. They should perform very specific, their own characteristic roles and create some kind of unique functions of them. Together, it will lead to the transformation in society, likewise in education as well. In this process, he believed in creation of non-monetary wealth. Professor Takwale was a hardcore socialist, but very open. And so he created the vision for non-monetary wealth. And I used to ask him, because I had to run the company, so I used to ask him very practical questions. And he once remarked, and with that I will conclude, and that he said that look at the non-monetary wealth. And he enlisted many things before me. He said that all the thought process that we put to create that work more profound, all the new ideas that we bring, all the imagination we bring, all the emotive forces that we bring, all the spontaneity that we bring to create this work which is socially useful and productive, all that, and to make that work sustainable, what we do for the development of the society, that whole thing is non-monetary wealth. Okay, and he just said that look, these non-monetary things cost much higher than what the monetary wealth can ever buy them. Okay, and that was his profound vision. Friends, I can talk about Professor Takwale for a pretty long time, but this is the day when we remember him, fondly remember him. We miss him a lot. Finally, coming to today's lecture, I would not talk on that topic and preempt anything. It's the privilege of the speaker, Shri Kiran Karnik. I would only say that had such a lecture been organized 2 years ago, all of us would have enjoyed a lecture as to the role of AI in the age of humans. But in 2 years' time, there has been fundamental change, and so the topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting this tone for this event and also setting the perspective of Professor Ram Takwale's sir's vision and this lecture series. It is now my honor to introduce our esteemed chair for this evening, Dr. Anil Kakodkar, sir, a distinguished scientist and visionary leader and the guiding force in India's scientific and educational landscape. He is a distinguished nuclear scientist, we all know, and a passionate advocate for education and sustainable development. His leadership in India's nuclear energy program is widely recognized, but equally noteworthy is his lifelong commitment to nurturing the scientific talent and building a knowledge-driven society. Dr. Kakodkar, sir, served as the director for BARC, Baba Atomic Research Center, and later as the chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission of India. Under his leadership, India's atomic energy program made significant strides, we all know. He has also been at the forefront of strengthening the science and technology through education. He has played a key role in establishment of institutions such as National Institute of Science, Education and Research and Center for Excellence in Basic Sciences. He has led the creation of Homi Bhabha National Institute, which uniquely integrates the research and higher education in nuclear science and related disciplines. To align science with national policy, he chaired a high-level committee under TIFAC, that is Technology Information Forecasting and Assessment Council, which developed Technology Vision 2035, which is a strategic roadmap for India's future in science innovation. He serves as the chairperson for Rajiv Gandhi Science and Technology Commission and also Maharashtra Knowledge Corporation Limited, MKCL. He is actively associated with academic institutions such as Chennai Mathematical Institution, Manipal University, etc. One of his visionary ideas is Silage, a concept that connects cities and villages by using knowledge and technology to empower rural communities and promote sustainable development. It has been our privilege that, as mentioned by Shri Vivek Sawant sir, that Dr. Kakodkar delivered the first Professor Ram Takwale Memorial Lecture last year, setting an actionable program for almost for a decade in front of all of us. His work has shaped policies, empowered institutions, and also inspired generations. Well, when I had this, when I had started noting all these points for the introduction of Dr. Anil Kakodkar, as a natural inclination these days, I did take help of AI. And as expected, the ChatGPT was full of text and links giving a lot of information about Dr. Kakodkar sir. After a lot of prompting and re-prompting, I did get some concise information though. However, I feel that it is my humble hope that with my limited human effort of choosing, of selecting, and of course narrating the most relevant aspects, especially in the context of Professor Ram Takwale Memorial Lecture ahead, I think it proves little meaningful and worthwhile. And on a lighter note, this sentence has not been curated by ChatGPT. So thank you, sir, for presiding over this lecture and for your continuous guidance with your vision. We do look forward to your presidential remarks later in this evening. And as we move on, I now request Sri Samir Pandey, Managing Director of MKCL, to kindly introduce and present a brief profile of our distinguished speaker today, Shri Kiran Karnik. Over to Samir Pandey, sir.
Thank you, Revati, and good evening all. It is truly an honor to stand before you today on the occasion of Professor Ram Takwale Memorial Lecture, a platform that celebrates visionary leadership, futuristic thinking, and lifelong dedication to learning and nation building. And who better to speak to us today than Kiran Karnik sir, a personality whose life journey mirrors the value that Professor Ram Takwale stood for: innovation, public service, and transformative education. Sri Kiran Karnik sir describes himself quite modestly as a public non-intellectual. But behind that humility is a towering legacy that spans over 4 decades across government, industry, civil society, and international institutions. He began his journey with a degree in physics from Mumbai University and went on to earn MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. He then spent over 2 decades at ISRO, where he played pioneering role in using space technology for education and development. His involvement was in satellite instructional television experiment SITE and also in planning of INSAT satellite system. His leadership roles include being the founder director of Consortium of Educational Communication, who managed UGC's countrywide classroom program. As a managing director of Discovery Networks in India, he brought to Indian audiences the Discovery Channel and Animal Planet. And then came the defining chapter as a president of NASSCOM from 2001 to 2008. Under his leadership, India's IT export grew nearly 8-fold. More importantly, he was instrumental in building a globally recognized brand for the Indian IT industry. He positioned India as a leader in the knowledge economy. He was chairman of government-appointed board that took charge of Satyam Computer Services in 2009 and oversaw its successful rehabilitation and sale. He has been on many government committees, including Scientific Advisory Council to Prime Minister and the National Innovation Council. He has also served on several prestigious boards, including the Reserve Bank of India, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Jodhpur, and was founding chair of Indraprastha Institute of Information Technology in India, in Delhi. Today, he continues to serve as chairman of Helpage India, staying rooted in his values of inclusion and equity. His work has earned him numerous accolades, the Padma Shri and the DataQuest Lifetime Achievement Award. And he has been listed by Forbes and Business Week among the most influential voices in Asia. He is also an accomplished author, having written several books, and each of his books reflects his deep concern with where our society and technology are headed. Ladies and gentlemen, Sri Kiran Karnik sir is not just a man of ideas, he is a man of action, foresight, and impact. His insights today on the role of humans in the age of robots and AI, learning, earning, and working in the future world will undoubtedly inspire us to reflect deeply on the path forward and not only for our institution, but for the country and its people. It is with immense respect, sir, and joy that I invite Kiran Karnik, sir, to deliver Professor Ram Takwale Memorial Lecture. Sir, please.
Dr. Anil Kakodkar, Dr. Bhatkar, Mr. Vivek Sawant, members of the MKCL board, dignitaries, guests here, and the various MKCL centers around the country. Namaskar and good evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Vivek Sawant, for that introduction. You know, after an introduction like that, the problem is always that it's a build-up, like imagining Kohli coming into bat, and you're looking for that next 50 or 100, and then he's under a lot of pressure. I'm also deeply pressured because in the audience today, I see very, very knowledgeable people whom I not only respect and learn from, but also people like Dr. Phatak, who, being a professor, I'm worried will grade me F straight away. And he's come prepared with paper and pencil to do the grading. But having said that, let me start right away by saying it's an honor to deliver the prestigious lecture, and I'm grateful to MKCL and Dr. Anil Kakodkar for this privilege. It's also a pleasure because not only did I personally know Professor Takwale for over 2 decades through the many organizations and committees in which we were both associated, but over time, the relationship changed and evolved from colleague to friend. And in his later years, I saw the passion not decreasing but increasing. You heard some of that today, just now, in the very, very thoughtful introduction by Vivek. I think it says a great deal about Professor Takwale. He was a change maker who addressed real and fundamental problems in the field of education and continuously strived to solve them. His distinguished career included the setting up of Maharashtra's first open university, the YCMOU, as its founding vice-chancellor for 6 years from 89 to 95, followed by a nationwide role as vice-chancellor of IGNOU, the National Open University. Earlier, he was VC here at Pune University, which is the time when I first got to know Professor Takwale. He was also a professor at the University of Pune and Vice MOU later as emeritus professor and mentor of MKCL Knowledge Foundation. He helped set up and was founder director of the pioneering MKCL, which is indeed a model for all those in the country and doing tremendous work both in the country and abroad, from Tripura to Kerala to Bihar and in countries abroad, flying not only the flag of India, but showing what a really well-run organization can do for those who need it most. Born on 11th April 1933 in a small village near Pune, his initial school education was in fact in rural areas. He did his matriculation from the prestigious Nutan Marathi Vidyalaya right here in Pune and graduated from Ferguson College. After a master's from University of Pune, he did his PhD from Moscow State University. He taught physics later in Pune University and guided research here for over 2 decades. He was awarded a D.Litt from Tilak University, Maharashtra, and YCMOU. His lifelong mission, as you heard earlier, was to extend education to empower people, particularly in the scenario of diversity, disparity, and deprivation. And I think these are very important words which concerned him a great deal, and in large numbers, at scale, not just in a limited way. He was keen on the use of internet and new technologies for school and teacher education, with the aim of evolving a new educational system suitable for the socio-economic transformation of the 21st century world. This is where we had a great deal of exchanges and interchange with how technology can play a role and what can it do in these days. He developed a new model for State Open University responsive to the needs of the state by developing teaching and learning models useful for workplace-based learning. His contributions include the introduction of courses for farmers, industry workers, and school dropouts through open learning. Again, extremely important areas for our country. He introduced an MPhil and PhD program in YCMOU and IGNOU and developed the National Action Plan for Primary Teachers in Service Training. He was associated and led many national and international organizations and bodies. He received many national and international awards and honors, which I will not recount. The UK Open University, the first open university in the world and the most well-known one, honored him in 1999 by conferring an honorary doctorate degree for his contributions in open and distance learning. Other honors include 2 more doctorate degrees. He had exceptional vision about the future of education and was way ahead of his times. But even beyond that, he was a humble, moderate, sensitive, fearless, cultured, and transparent individual, a human being, a great human being indeed. As I said, it's an honor for me to be delivering this lecture in his memory. I will now get on to the body of my lecture. I'll limit the lecture because I can go on speaking and, droning till I'm tired. But I will refrain from doing that. I'll try and limit it and try and keep enough time for interactions, questions, discussions. Also, with your permission and the kind permission from the organizers, I may sit down after a while and continue from there. I have a problem with my legs standing too long, so I beg that indulgence from all of you. Maybe a good time. Thank you, Dr. Kakodkar. I begin with a few minutes about artificial intelligence. Very brief, very simple. Let me stress, I am not a technologist, so my speaking on this is not from a technological point of view, but more from the point of view of impact, concerns, the future, and what it might do at the very broad level of society. That's where I will focus on. So in fairly simple words, let me just try and put across, so we are on the same page, my understanding of AI and where it's headed and what it may do. It's the current buzzword, as all of you know, across all sectors of the economy. Today you read about it every day, all the time, in most newspapers, including mainline newspapers, not just technology, as common as the word tariff today is in your headlines. National security agencies, military and other defense establishments and governments are deeply involved and determined to ensure that they're up to date on the knowledge and use of AI. It's become so crucial even in that sphere, not just the economy. Business is, of course, very conscious that competitive advantage now goes to those who are able to use AI effectively for new and better products, innovation, cost efficiency, better quality, and quicker delivery. AI helps you to do all this. It's not terribly new. Lots of new technologies have done this, but AI is doing this on a scale and at a level which is a very different one. It's not just an increase incrementally, but it's a radical change in what you can do to create new products, to innovate, improve quality, repeatability, find defects, do all kinds of things with it. What makes AI special is its power when combined with physical devices, so-called cyber physical systems, the technical lingo or jargon. So when you combine the AI with physical devices to enhance their capability, it takes automation to an altogether new level. Automation, of course, is not something new at all. For centuries, humans have used devices, right from simple farm equipment to wind and water power for windmills, for mills grinding in the very early days of the settled agriculture. So technology is used, whatever you say as quote as technology, use for enhancing capabilities and productivity is not terribly new. In factories, equipment has long been used to amplify or increase or to reduce the kind of effort of human beings. And till recently, most such equipment, though, needed human guidance or assistance. So you could use equipment, but it needed somebody there, a human being, to guide it, to run it, to do something with it. With AI, this has become increasingly autonomous. This is a radical change, that the equipment begins to do things by itself. Once told what to do, has to do nothing more. In simple terms, AI comprises software which mimics human intelligence. It does this on the basis of being trained on massive data sets. This is a critical part of it. The whole training of what you do is based on endless access to data And this is the radical change which has come with all the new research that you read about and see, that how do you pick out from the data and create the training sets by which it's continuously trained to improve. And then every time it iterates again and again till it trains and perfects what it's trying to do. So the training on data sets is critical, which is why you may often read in the popular press even about how important data is and how important collecting, storing, preserving that data and accessing data is. Those who have more data will tend to be able to do much more sophisticated work on AI. There are new developments that sometimes are able to shrink that, but all the same, access to data is critical. Data is, you might say, the raw material on which AI is built. The whole process of training AI is built on that. And this is what enables integrated AI with machines, what we may call robos, to take over much of what routine human effort can do on the shop floor. I mentioned earlier about autonomous work on the shop floor. With the addition of AI now, that becomes possible because the machine is trained with all the data to be able to respond to all kinds of situations. Earlier it had fixed rules, fixed situations, and that was what was, computer numerically controlled machines and so on used to do that earlier, 10 years back, 20 years back. Now the difference is that it is trained to perceive things which may not be in the normal line of routine work. Earlier you needed human intervention at that point. Now you don't. And that's what is intelligent about artificial intelligence. The fact that like humans, it's able to see something which is there and sometimes much beyond what humans can do. And I'll come to that in a few minutes. Importantly, it can take up all the routine and rule-based work that humans do, whether in factories or, more importantly, for many, many people in white-collar jobs, what people do in offices as what you might call rule-based. If this is so, then this will follow. So you're told that if this is so, take simple, straightforward thing like accounting. You know what is there, the rule is fixed, you know what is to be done. It's like an algorithm, an equation where things are fixed. So anything that is routine in terms of decision-making is easily doable by AI or even at a pre-AI stage. The change now is progressing way beyond that, but that's the minimum. So all the standard routine work in offices being done will disappear. It will go away. And we're beginning to see more of that. Importantly, with new technological developments, all this can be done at lower cost, greater efficiency, and higher reliability by the machines, and often with better quality. They don't go on strike. They don't take sick leave. They don't take the day off. They don't celebrate Diwali. So, in a way, terrible. But it ensures, from the point of view of an organization, that you're able to work 24/7 with no problems, no glitches, no sudden absences, no surprises, and the work can go on. The unleashing of power of AI has been made even faster progress with the advent of what is called generative AI, Gen AI, which you've all read about. This adds a degree of, you might say, quasi-creativity. Though it's called generative, I wouldn't say it's really creative, but there is some degree of semi-creativity involved in that, which enables it to do a much wider range of tasks. An example is to write a report or a story based on just points or what are called prompts. So you just give the points and say, it will write a story. Generative AI is supposed to do, it can do much more now because of the access to data. So some of you may want to write this. Tell it to write a story in the style of Woodhouse and to produce that. You tell it to write a story in the style of Tolstoy, it may do that. You tell it to write a story in the style of any of your favorite Indian writers, and you'll be able to do that. The unfortunate part as of now, which I must say is changing rapidly, is that you can't do this with Indian language authors because the database, data sets which form the raw material for training and access are very limited in Indian languages. But they're growing rapidly, and you soon be able to do that also. So you're able to create things like this. You can ask it to write poetry. Some of you, I don't know if you read the Small Things in Times of India, have today's AI Shairi, SHAI, AI Shairi. And it's all generated by AI, just auto-generated. And of course, this has become very widely known and popular unlike other technologies, because of an app called ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is what has driven AI into the popular consciousness and the popular mind. Otherwise, new technologies come, they take a long time, they penetrate slowly and then go across. But ChatGPT, like a few other apps, like you might say the mobile phone, which of course in India was a bit slow, has seen phenomenal penetration in a short period of time. This is even faster by one magnitude. The ChatGPT is all over, and today everybody can use it. It's easy. You just have to speak. There's no technical knowledge required. You can train anybody to do it in a matter of hours to how to use ChatGPT, and it'll all be there. It's spoken language, it's normal language. Constraint again, good news is that changing rapidly is that it is English-based. But, as I said, changing rapidly, there are already apps which are able to do this in Indian languages, Hindi. I don't know about Marathi, but I know in other languages, they have just begun. It's early stages, not able to do it too well, but it works, and very soon you'll see much more of that. So you ask it a query, and you get a response way beyond the normal Google search, and it's at lightning speed. And if any of you have tried this or do try it, you'll see that it's amazing what it searches and what it does. It digs out anything and everything. In a fraction of a second, you click the button, and it's almost there. And you wonder whether it anticipated you, almost, because the answer is almost there before your question. We're getting to that stage, and we might want to talk of that later. Today, robots, of course, do this, what you call chatbots. So you ask them questions, and mostly the chatbots are used for functional purposes. So you get information, you get data, you get what you want through the chatbots. And, the simplest form, and you can see the evolution when we talk of AI and its evolution. Some of you are old enough to have used IVR, the interactive voice response system, where you call. Even now they're in vogue. And you call up and it says, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 5 for that, your next query, and you go on and you're on the phone, and of course sometimes very, very frustrating, but it's a long process. Now it's made less frustrating and more user-friendly by just speaking and saying, tell me this. It doesn't tell you to press this or that. It automatically, based on what you say, is able to do it. It's able to understand your voice, your accent. Some difficulty with Indian accents yet, but by and large it's got there. It understands you what you're asking and gives you a reply straight away. And this is a radical transformation. And why I mentioned some of these things, and you might relate them already in your mind, how important this is for India in a society which is yet, semi to minimally literate, how important it is for somebody to be able to speak and get an answer, rather than to have to type or to read something. And I think this can transform what information and knowledge is accessible to whom. Vivek spoke earlier about power and the powerless, the few who have power and those who don't. This, one reason for this huge asymmetry is not just wealth, it's also information. Who has more information? Who has more knowledge? And the hope is, and we might again discuss that in the end, is that AI and its newer versions can serve to equalize some of this information asymmetry between the powerful and the powerless. The further development of AI will see the emergence of what is called artificial general intelligence, moving from Gen AI to AGI, artificial general intelligence, which takes us many steps ahead in the capabilities of what can be done by AI. Many foresee in the not too distant future the evolution to its ultimate stage of what is called artificial superintelligence, the point at which the intelligence of the machine will not just be like, will not just match, but will exceed that of human beings. That's artificial superintelligence. Unlike many other sci-tech developments, where the widespread dissemination is slow and often takes years, AI is creating a direct and immediate impact on our daily lives. So I mentioned ChatGPT, but it's not just you're using ChatGPT. Even if you don't, it has an impact on your daily life. Its ramifications in all spheres are already visible. It's dominating the military arena, as I said earlier, where it has become a powerful force multiplier. The financial sector is leading the business sector in the use of AI, but other sectors are not far behind. Meanwhile, bigger factories are already automating very rapidly, and robots may soon outnumber humans on the shop floor. Already in a few advanced manufacturing countries like Germany or Japan or China, you're seeing that there are factories which are almost completely robo-operated. One driving force, of course, in some of these countries, including China, and some of you may be surprised, but most of you will know that they have a demographic problem of having too few young people and therefore too few workers. Looking ahead 10, 20 years, they see that happening. Japan is already experiencing it, as is Europe, and therefore there is an extra incentive for them to try and see how can workers be replaced by robots. So it's not just a matter of efficiency, cost, better quality, but also one of necessity, that you don't have workers, how are you going to run your factories? All this is only the beginning of what I would call the AI age. What may happen in years to come can only be imagined. Over the next few minutes, I'll briefly cover 3 important areas of human effort, which is the subtitle of my talk: learning, earning, and working. And I'll cover them only briefly because I want to leave some thoughts with you, which you can mull over, think about what your perspective on them is and what you might want to do, because I'm merely hypothesizing here. This is not based on research or data as such. I'll then finally a few concluding remarks on the overall and future scenario. So first, AI and learning. Amongst the areas where one is likely to see major change is in education and learning. Many have long surmised that technology will radically overhaul education. This was what Professor Takwale was also trying to do, as I mentioned earlier. During the COVID pandemic and lockdown, online learning took off. Pre-recorded lectures and lessons could be accessed anytime, anywhere, and the role of the teacher had, of necessity, to undergo a major transformation. The lecturer who used to speak to you in a classroom became a guide or a facilitator, because you could get the material online. Aiding discussion was his job, answering questions was his or her job, stimulating new thinking was hopefully something which the teacher did. Testing and assessment too moved online, with the focus shifting from just regurgitating information to evaluating understanding, evaluating analytical skills, and critical thinking. Earlier, this was very difficult to do. Teachers everywhere recognized the need to go beyond just information reproduction to saying, how do you do this? But how are you able to judge this? How will you evaluate? How will you do this, especially on scale? You might do it in a classroom of 30, but if you have a few 100,000 people appearing for, the JEE or the NEET, how do you assess that beyond just objective type tick, yes, no questions? And AI is going to begin to play a key role in some of this. That how do you frame questions and how are you able to analyze the answers to see, is there understanding, is there depth, is there critical thinking evidenced in what the candidate is putting out. So with AI, we can expect much more radical shifts even beyond this sort of assessments, which began to happen during COVID and the lockdowns. Imagine AI as what is now a popular thing, it's even become a brand, called Copilot, helping you to navigate through the curriculum. It can be a teacher available right by your side, 24/7, whenever you want to learn, whenever you want to study, whenever you want to read something, AI will be there. It will aid you, help you, pace you, and take you through the material. Think of a scenario where AI is there and you're learning something, you're not quite clear what it is. There are periodic assessments done by just asking you a question, and AI figures that, no, you've not understood this. It will accordingly repeat that, not in the same form because you didn't understand it, but will modify the content to something which you may understand. It may pace it slower, it may make it different, but depending on what your responses are, it will modify the material. That is the beginning of intelligence. It is not just data analytics, it's not just finding out what the trend was, it's not just assessing what you understood, but it is modifying the very content so that you understand better. And again, it checks out by asking you some simple questions, and based on your answers, it continues to modify. This iteration goes on till you learn and progress to the next level. So it makes sure you are progressing upward in your learning all through. Continuously assessing and modifying with the speed of the material If you're doing very well, it's to speed up the material. You don't have to be stuck at some slow read. So learning at your pace, at your time, as per your need, with an AI all the time there to help you, sitting by your side. It will also take examples from your daily life, your own life, your personal life, which AI will pick up from all that you do, including a bit scary sometimes, all the posts you make on social media. It knows what kind of person you are, what you do, what you experienced, where you went, and of course, Instagrammers, even what they ate. They love taking pictures of the food, I'm eating this today. So it knows what you like, everything. And based on that, it will create material for you, which you might call experiential learning. Today, learning takes various forms. And among the best forms of learning is experience. You just heard about Nain Talim and work. This is different. You're not working, but it picks from what you did to help you to learn more and take it forward. So this is one form of experiential learning. So it matches your personal experience, context, and experience. So I always like to give this example, which I picked up of analogies which are given to us from textbooks that come from a different culture, generally the West, but some in India may understand it. Those of you who have deal with electronics or any such technology, or it's physics, even science, that components typically have what is a curve, which is high failure at beginning of life, long period of steady work, and then end of life, obviously the failure rates increases. Now, often textbooks describe this as a bathtub curve. Now, those who have seen bathtub, it's a visual that is very easy to remember in your mind. The bathtub shape, like a U shape roughly. It's like this. But for those who have never seen a bathtub, which is, 98% of this country maybe, what will a bathtub curve mean? Now, AI will change all that. It will modify that based on your personal experience. So yes, if you're grown up in a culture, a society, a class that knows a bathtub, it will tell you bathtub curve. If you're living in a small village, in a hut somewhere, it will not tell you bathtub curve. It will give you some other analogy with which you are familiar, which makes that curve. That is the kind of thing that AI will be capable of to help you to learn in your context, based on your experience and based on what you see and experience around you personally. It will also simulate and provide an immersive environment. So there are things which none of us will ever see or be there. So it will simulate that and put you almost there. It's like these movies you see. It's like Matrix. You're in the Matrix. So, it's really looking at what gets you there to make you live that experience, which you can never live, wherever you're from. It's like the old days where TV was used powerfully for showing you microscopic things, showing you an atom, which you could never see. But through TV, through photography, through enhancement, through animation, through visuals, you could create the effect. Now this will put you there, as if you're right there yourself inside. So it gives you something which is exceptional. Of course, this teacher by your side has another advantage. They will not be judgmental. They will not scold you. They will not pull you up. If you want to just goof off one day and go have a cup of coffee, it won't tell you, don't do that. So there are some advantages also. It will be patient, won't push you, and it's there 24/7 whenever you want. This hopefully will help us to create certain much more, equality among those who know and those who don't. It does require access to devices, which is yet unavoidable, but there are ways, and MKCL has demonstrated that so well through its centers, that you don't have a computer at home, but then you can go there and access them. So something where you can provide access at least. The concern just now is that unlike teachers, unlike the human teacher, that human touch, what happens to emotional quotient, to empathy and understanding? It's looking maybe too optimistically at what technology can do, but it's beginning to pick that up. I've seen at the business level, forget pure technology or education, where emails are sent which reflect empathy because the AI has understood what you like, what you do, what you don't do, what happened. When you took leave, what did you write? So you write I want to leave because my child is unwell. So it will tell you, and your next mail will say, oh, by the way, I hope your child has recovered. If you went for a school admission and say, I have to take leave today because the admission test, and the test, as you all know, is not for your child, it's for the parent. The teacher will ask you questions, how you bring up the child. So it will remember that, and 1 week later, when you had some exchange, it will add one line in the end that, I hope your daughter got admission in the school you wanted. You suddenly feel as if it's a human being. But hey, no, it's a machine which is responding in a cold way to you, but it's added this little touch, that human touch, which makes you feel as if there's an emotion, as if there's empathy. This is just the start. As the technology evolves, you can imagine. So those who say sometimes, as I do, that what about emotion, what about empathy, what about the human feelings? You don't know. Maybe one day it will get there completely. It's already partially there. Maybe it will be there fully. So wait and see. Okay, let me move to livelihoods, because this is indeed a big concern. I spoke about robots in factories, AI in offices taking over jobs. So what's going to happen? Where are livelihoods? What will we do? With increasing and more sophisticated automation, most present jobs will no longer require humans. There are predictions that say in 10 years, 50% plus of the jobs that exist today, of all jobs at all levels, will stop. There will be no job. Now, if you think this is far-fetched, think of the crudest example, which is for those who are 35, 40 plus, will remember. There used to be a breed, a job, a definition, a position called stenographers. So you spoke, and they took it down in what was called shorthand. And the shorthand test was important when you were entering an organization. Can you do 120 words a minute, shorthand taking down, and type at 90 words a minute? Neither of them matter today. Who has a stenographer? Who has even a typist? You're doing your own work. You learn the keyboard yourself, which people like me never did in our younger days. I have to do one finger even today. But we are learning. But today you don't need that too. You just speak, and it's speech to text. Yet, not 100% there, but getting there. And it's only a matter of time before it does 100% ability to transcribe. So, stenographer's job gone. Telephone operator. Old days, there used to be all calls manually done. Then there were crossbar exchanges, only your long distance calls, you went through an operator. No such breed now. There's no telephone operator. The telephone exchanges used to be huge. They're small now. Telephone exchanges used to have dormitories where the telephone operators who were working in the night shift, especially if they were women, could stay if they wanted to. Nothing now. All gone. Cars, drivers today, taxis, there are hundreds of thousands employed by so-called, these radio cabs or rent-a-cab. You don't know how many years from now, probably 10 years from now, if not sooner, most of them will be, autonomous vehicles. You don't need a driver. One more job gone, one more job description gone. Already, those of you familiar with the IT industry will know, things like coding have gone, things like testing have gone, things like programming are going. If you go to a factory and go to the Tata factory right here, you see half the functions. Painting, welding is all done by robots, by automates. There are no human beings. There's some human beings there to supervise and just make sure, but very, very few. And even those will go away now. So what's going to happen? As, factory floor officer, I said, AI-embedded robots in physical or software algorithmic forms will replace almost all humans. The people who are needed will be completely different. They need different skills or skills of a much higher level than existing employees. Prepare then for mass layoffs, joblessness on a large scale. Even engineers will not be immune. So those who think engineering is a safe bet, no, I doubt it. Doctors may last longer, but you read all the time today of robotic surgeries. Today it needs a degree of human control, but you don't know how long that will last too. So maybe it will be there, and maybe you will not need surgery any longer. That's a different field. I don't want to delve into that today. But they will just replace organs. You go with a car problem today, nobody repairs a car. They take out the part and put in a new part, especially if you've got an imported car. No question of repair. They don't know the concept of repair. It's just replace. Throw away and replace. That's going to happen to your organs. So you got a hearing problem, put a hearing aid, starting with that. You got a heart problem, replace your heart. What's your problem? Why go fix it and do a bypass and this and that? Just replace the heart. already you think replacement knees, you have a knee problem, knee replacement, very common today, very common. And some of the elder people here may have gone through that. So, I think therefore things are changing, and you don't know even what kinds of professions will stay, but certainly engineers and doctors who think that they have a long way to go, yes, for 10, maybe 20 years, most of them may be there, at least half of them may be around, but some will lose their jobs already. And because AI is already capable of helping to emulate their job skills and take them off. In the meantime, for the next 10 or 20 years, upskilling and reskilling will be absolutely essential. Some assembly line workers may be upskilled to oversee and supervise multiple automated lines. So instead of having 10 workers in a line, you have one person who supervises the full line, which is automated. But that number too will be small, and there will be job losses in the short term. So it's going to be a bit of a disaster in the short term, and I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I think it may be a realistic scenario, and we should prepare for the worst, though we may hope for the best. The good news is the historical evidence. Every new technology has, if you think of any new technology, it has in the medium to long term created more jobs than eaten up jobs. Every new technology, think of any of them. In the lifetime of many of you, except the very young people here, you will recall a time when bank employees, particularly of government-owned banks, then went on strike because they didn't want computers. It thought it would take away their jobs. Today, the booming industry in the job market is the banks, which are completely automated. You don't even need a bank branch today. I know young people have never been to a bank. They do everything online or an ATM. Why go to a bank? Even then, there are more people employed in banks today before the technology age. And this is across the board. Think of a technology and go back and think about it yourself. More jobs have been created. The problem is twofold. That happens over a period of time. So in the medium to long term, you have more jobs, not less. In the short term, you have less jobs. In the short term, you have layoffs. And even in the medium term, you have new jobs of a new kind, those with existing skills. Somebody who's, 10 years from now, somebody who's 50 years old, may not be in a position to be reskilled to do a completely new job. Some may not. Again, sounding pessimistic, but I think that's realistic. So jobs will increase, but problems of skills, of capabilities, and so on will be a problem. Problem is that in the medium to long term, we don't know how long that is. If it's long term, and as I think it was Lord Keynes who famously said, in the long term, we're all dead. So, waiting for long term, we don't. So in the meantime, we need to prepare for the short term. We need to prepare for possible disasters. The minimum requirement, and this is where I think action comes in, is reskilling, upskilling, and most importantly, a very strong social security system. Something that maybe, ensures minimum income, ensures free healthcare, ensures free education. The minimum things, housing, of course, water and so on now is taken for granted. But something that ensures that for everybody. And there you'll have to look at things which are now beginning to happen around the world in recognition of this. Of course, there will be new kinds of jobs, which some of you younger people in the audience and many of our people in the centers who are listening to this need to prepare. Your skill level needs to move up. Not just digital skills, but AI skills. Not just AI skills, but within AI, you begin to need to continuously move up. There will be new jobs like prompters. Who writes the prompts? There has to be somebody who writes them. Somebody who's both creative and reasonably knowledgeable to be able to write the prompts that are able to do this, or give the points that are able to AI is able to take off from. There will be new jobs for innovation. AI will do that one day maybe, but today, completely new things, a new thought, innovation comes mainly from humans. And triggering that innovation, where after which AI can take over, fine-tune it, test it, simulate it, see if this is workable or not, see is there a business plan that has success that can be, monetized either in cash terms or in social benefit terms. Otherwise, there will be something there. So innovators, prompters will be required. And most likely, while the overall requirement for broader level specialists, I mentioned engineers, doctors will go down, the requirement and demand for deep specialists, those who know a great deal, who really understand the subject, will probably go up. Because even with AI and all this, you will need people who are able to do the basic things. And that will require skills of great depth. So higher level skills at the really high level will go up. So crudely put, demand for BAs, BEs will go down. Demand for PhDs will go up. I don't know, but that seems to be the kind of scenario we're heading to. Also, there will be a demand for a different kind of breed, at least in the medium term, maybe long term. There will be a number of specializations, a number of specialists. Every organization will have them. Much of it will be automated and AI-driven. But you will yet need somebody who is able to link all these, to pull it together, to make it coherent, to take it to a certain vision where you're heading. And that will require broader level skills of two kinds. One is people who can do some team building. So even the few people who are working, the few humans, have to be brought together. So you might say very generally put HR skills, human resources, human skills. And the second is leadership and general management skills. Those are not going to go away, I think, for some time yet, for a longer time, till we see where they are. So AI will mean less work and more leisure. Looks like the advent of any technology has been driven by the need to produce more, better, with fewer resources or at lower cost. So what you might call the mantra of quality, quantity, and cost being motivators. So better quality, more quantity, and lower cost, lower use of resources. Often, there is equally important has been the need to reduce human drudgery and effort. We have seen this earlier from early times, where labor, hard human labor, was replaced. Now, many other things which are routine, completely drudge jobs are slowly beginning to go away and be replaced with something which is automated. So nobody is required to do those kinds of terrible things. And one rather crude one, not the best one, maybe a vacuum cleaner that replaces somebody who's sweeping the floor. So that kind of menial job may go away altogether. And this has always been a driver for new innovations. The difference, of course, is this now being done at a speed and scale which we have never seen earlier. But the result of all this, in summary, is less effort, fewer people to produce the same quantity of output, hence fewer jobs. And as technology progresses, AI will replace even more tasks and more sophisticated ones which are higher up the skill hierarchy, as I said earlier. It may mean more overall prosperity because you will produce more using fewer resources, much more automated, output will be there. So there's a possibility of being able to manage this growth prosperity and use some of that prosperity for strong social security nets for those who don't have jobs or those who need retraining. Things like what is among the economists among you will recognize this as a common point of debate over the last few years has been whether there should be an assured income, what is called a universal basic income, a UBI. Even in India, one of our economic advisors had advocated beginning to look at that. And in some ways, very crudely put, we do that through job assurance schemes. At the moment, it requires work. It's not a dole. But many places, even advanced countries, have as part of Social Security, if you're out of a job, they pay you something. Of course, at the side, as a footnote, I might say in half jest that I once met a small group traveling from Europe. And I said, not bad, you guys are spending a lot of time in India, so how come you got such a break? They said, we're not working. So I said, very good, you must be very wealthy people to not work and roam around the world. They said, no, not really. Our social security payments are enough to cover us living in India. So very happy coming here for 3 months every year. I said, not a bad thing. So I don't know, UBI may or may not do that. But a universal basic income may be something that's both necessary and feasible if prosperity can come about because of technology. If you can create more, produce more, and yet not have that many people employed, then those who are unemployed will get some kind of basic income and a pension, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, free healthcare, medicines, free education, housing, etc. The question for us in India is the race. Just as we're in a demographic race, that while we have the advantage of a young population, which from all past experiences of other countries has helped economic growth, of course, precondition for that is that they need skills, training, and education. Hopefully we will provide that. But it's a race between that economic growth, rapidly using that before it sinks and we become old. Because we may be among the first countries, if present growth trends don't pick up, which will become old before we become rich. Every other country, including our neighbor China, whom I mentioned is having a demographic problem in reverse now of not having enough children, are, if not rich, well off before they've aged. China is aging now. Their GDP per person or per capita income has crossed $12,000. Ours is about $3,000. And we will not get to 12,000 for another 25 years. That may be optimistic too. And in 25 years, we will have an aging population. We will be roughly at where China is today or worse in terms of the profile of having older people to be supported. So it's going to be a race in India between how fast we can drive economic growth so that we can do something like universal basic income and free healthcare to be able to afford that for 1.5, 1.6 billion people then, and yet be able to produce enough to cover that. European countries today are doing it, but they're worried because their pension payments are rising and they're having difficulty now balancing their budgets with high pension payments, high social security payments, and not enough working age people. They're counting on immigration. Now we have different choices, which is a separate discussion, whether to promote immigration from outside, which we seem very averse to for whatever reason, or whether we need to do something else, or we need to capitalize much more, which is something I've been advocating and wearing for 30 seconds my hat as Helpage India chair, that we need active aging. We need people who retire at 60 who are so active. Look at your board here of MKCL. People who are older but who are unbelievably active. Their passion, their drive, they're able to do everything a young person can do. And you say retired? What retired? So how can we use this older population in India rather than saying that demographic dividend or working age population 15 to 64, those who are 64 are dependent. Why are they dependent? They can be more productive than the 15 to 64, but that's a different story. But I mention it because these are the kind of things which AI may help us to do. It may give some things to be done which are easier now with AI. Among one of the things it might do, which already automation is doing, is not require as much human effort. So sure, I have a problem standing for long, but hey, I don't have to necessarily stand. And particularly if I have help from AI to do whatever I need to do, it's fine. It doesn't matter that I can't stand as long or as easily as somebody who's 40 or 45 or have a problem climbing stairs. It doesn't matter. So if AI and technology can help us do that, maybe some of these problems will be sorted out. But look at the other part of it, that apart from this race between economic growth and the kind of social security and joblessness that will happen, one possibility is that more leisure could mean a possible flowering of art, culture, literature, research, because people will have more time, they'll be able to do more of this, they'll enjoy their lives, people will write, there'll be great writers, there'll be great artworks coming out, fantastic poetry coming out. So positive signs of having more leisure. Not that leisure alone encourages this. It's not that hardworking people don't produce good literature, but it's more difficult. So if you have all the time, maybe you'll do something more. Of course, there'll be tourism which will see a boom, which I mentioned the Europeans on social security. Maybe you'll see a boom of tourism. There'll be much more experiential trips. People don't want to just go and see an architectural wonder, which they may want to see, but they may want to experience something. And today you're already beginning to see experiential tours. There are cuisine tours, and then there are adventure tours, so you're experiencing something rather than just seeing. There are, of course, given our traditions particularly, the experiential tours may also be within spirituality, yoga, or whatever. Sports, of course, it might create non-economic problems. Some people foresee this as a pessimistic or a dark scenario. Fewer jobs will mean many idle minds. Many idle minds will mean that at least some will move possibly into drugs or crime. Some may end up with low self-worth, saying, I don't have a job, I'm just sitting around. Sure, I'm comfortable, but what am I doing? What am I worth? Which may lead to depression and increase in suicides and you see this reflected sometimes. Numbers will vary, data is bad, but some of the northern European countries, which are very prosperous and comfortable, suicide rates are high. They seem always dark, and even their writing literature is sort of dark and forbidding to me. You really don't know what it is. So drugs and crime could grow. Also, what will happen if you have more leisure? You may, hopefully it's a good thing, interact much more. But what will be the psychosocial changes as you interact much more? I know many people mentioned to me that the first few weeks of the COVID lockdown were great because the whole family was together. And they said after a few weeks, at least a few shared with me, very frankly, and it may not be true for others, maybe only a small percentage, that the whole family, and that too cooped up in, say, an apartment, you're not supposed to go out anywhere, creates its own tensions and problems. So if everybody is free and everybody is at home and everybody is living together, is this going to create some psychosocial problems? They're just thoughts. Maybe it will be very good, who knows, but maybe something can come. Okay, final few words in concluding. So the conundrum, I think, for us is partly AI, automation, robots. Is it man, human, versus machine? Alternative scenario, is it man and machine, not an or? Why do we always look at it as an or? Why do we look at it as a battle? Of course, the biggest fear is that robots and AIs will displace the whole human species from its apex. Today we see ourselves at the apex of all the species. We dominate, or can dominate certainly, the animal world completely. And humans, feel they run everything and will take us off from there. Already in many cases, for example, autonomous vehicles, machine decision-making is better. And I often give this example because it's something that we all read about, self-driven cars. Self-driven car, there have been many tests on this. The response time of a computer, of a machine, is faster than the humans. Humans are fast, but the response time is that quicker. Its judgment is better. Its decision-making, is that object going to come across now, or can I avoid it by the same speed? Do I increase my speed or decrease my speed? That kind of decision-making, which we do very fast. And by and large, right, machines will do it better, quicker, and faster. Therefore, the machine decision-making will be safer. So, very often today, we have a override function for many of the automated things in, say, your car. And sometimes they don't work, the windows get stuck and somebody gets trapped. But otherwise, you have an automated thing. You can just put an automatic off and manually do something. Will future cars and all future equipment have a machine override? When there's a danger, the machine just cuts you off and takes over. Already you know that apart from vehicles where there's always a dispute, who was at fault, what was at fault, you read investigations on aircraft crashes, and many of them, not a majority, not a huge proportion, but many of them are attributed to human error, rightly or wrongly. So instead of human, suppose you had a machine there, completely automated and completely guaranteed. We are not quite there, but we will be soon. Today, many of the landings in poor visibility are done by an automated system, not by humans. They guide it, but the automated system that tells you everything, what glide path, what speed to come at, what inclination to take. And, no reason why a completely autonomous aircraft will not be safer. Almost certainly it will be safer than a human pilot 5 years, 10 years from now. Drones are already flying over and, become very safe. So, to prevent such human error accidents, will machines be the dominant force in all these? There's a deep concern worldwide now with all these autonomous systems about autonomous weapons. A lot of discussion going on so-called autonomous weapons and autonomous or even robo-armies. Decision-making will move to machines. The justification will be the reduced reaction time. If you're fearing an attack, you have to react before it hits you. So that reaction time is getting smaller and smaller because missile speeds. Some of you may have read about hypersonic missiles. So the time you have to react is much reduced. Earlier, the US, for example, used to calculate the time it would take for, say, a Soviet missile in those days, in the Cold War days, to reach the US. And they felt they had enough time to be able to react. That time has rapidly come down. And if your neighbor is your enemy, the reaction time is even smaller. Today, so-called unarmed aerial vehicles, UAVs, or drones as you call them, the big ones that fly with weapons, are guided by a remote pilot. The pilot may be sitting in the US, the drone may be in Afghanistan, but there is a pilot who then looks at the sensors, looks at what data there is, and it is that remote pilot who then decides, drop the bomb or not. And at least you may have seen it in movies, true or not, who knows, that they sometimes decide, no, there are children around, let's not do it. Sometimes they do and call it collateral damage, but that's a different story. So, but very soon, this may be transferred because I said reaction times are doing. And the autonomous system will be trained to identify, track, and attack the device. So if it's a military tank, it may be all right. So the drone is equipped through artificial intelligence to look at all the objects and say, that's a military tank. And then it targets the tank and attacks it, completely on its own. No human guidance, no human intervention. Now this is being done already according to at least reports for human beings. That you have a face, there's a facial recognition system, there's a terrorist leader, small drone goes, looks all around, identifies the person, and kills only that one person. Collateral damage is sometimes minimal. The detailed story for those who are interested, because it's in the media, of an Iranian nuclear scientist being killed because they made sure his car stopped, they made sure that he got out, his wife was in the car, the driver was in the car, only he was killed by a van parked with an automated gun system which was controlled apparently from Israel via a satellite. Imagine all the links. The satellite picked up the data, cameras were there, facial recognition said this is the person, confirmed that's the person, the gun was directed at him from a few thousand miles away, fired, killed him, and then of course that van, according to reports again, had a self-explosive device which blew it up, so there's no evidence. But that's the kind of scenario which apparently from this report is happening. This was many years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So you can imagine the progress that's been made. So this is the scary part about what is happening. So as this moves completely to machines with completely pre-assigned, not just specific target as in the case one person, but general targets like a tank, something like that, you don't know where it will head. Well, you will have to see what can be done. There are already some discussions going on should this be allowed, should this be disallowed. But, question is, these so-called rules of engagement are fine, will they be followed or not? Sometimes we see they are, sometimes we see that international bodies are ignored, so you don't know what will happen. In any case, over the course of time, more decision-making will move to machines. And as Gen AI progresses to AGI and then to ASI, artificial superintelligence, humans may find themselves completely outside the chain of command and control. This is one extreme fear. It is because of this, that recently, last year maybe, top scientists and technologies have written a letter which have warned of AI progressing in a runaway mode. They're fearful of how fast it's progressing and how we are not making enough guardrails to guard against any such things. And they called for a pause. Hold the development till we go further. Of course, nobody's going to pause, we know that. But should there be some guide rails? Should there be some indicative norms or laws? How much will be followed, we don't know, but it's possible. We have some examples of international laws which are being followed or international guidelines, but there are always deviants and always there are problems. So, of course, some have called this an existential crisis for human species, not just for particular people. And the threat is that biggest threat, because so far the threat to the species, you might say, has been from humans themselves. Nuclear war, which may exterminate all of us, but it is humans who are causing that. Here is something which may be machine caused and you don't know what. Of course, having painted these fear scenarios, I also painted some positive ones, I hope, because I am very positive. I am an optimist. And I think it can do. AI and its future generations can do a lot. We have to see what happens. But there are some questions also. How far will AI go? Can it really think outside the box? can really truly innovate. Innovate not just, not jugaad. It's not just doing some small changes. It's not making quick fixes. It's something completely different, a completely new kind of thing. Can it do that? Can it create something altogether new that doesn't exist? Can it imagine? It does a lot of things, yes. It does a lot of thinking, a lot of distilling, a lot of projecting, a lot of simulating. But can it imagine? And this is a question which is not easy to answer. There are questions about emotions and relationships, but as I said, you don't know. It may simulate that, but not be quite the same. Worse, a fear which is existing even today. What about human biases that creep in at the initial stage when you're doing a basic model? Take the training data sets. If the training data set is skewed, then it's trained to do a particular thing. And there's been research on this, that much of the facial recognition, for example, because the kind of data they're using, is better in the case of a certain kind of ethnicity and a certain kind of race than it is for others. So an Indian face will not be facially recognized with the same accuracy as an American face. So good or bad, these biases creep in. So all this, finally, we just that question which I started on this section, that, are we looking at a traditional man versus machine or humans poser, or can we think of machines and humans? Can the two complement each other? Must they necessarily be in competition? One analogy, humans and nature. There was a period, maybe 50 years back and 100 years before that, where man sought to dominate nature. We thought we can control nature like we do other things. Now we have given up on that, and we know that we can't control nature. What we can do is try and understand it, to try and predict it, to try and mitigate losses, and to work with nature, to try and help rather than be in opposition. Is that a possibility, that we work with AI and machines and not treat them as alternatives and options? I think that's something which we need to look at and see what we can do there. Let me stop there. I've taken far more time than I intended to, and my apologies for overstating my own set time limit. But I'm happy to, depending on how much time we have, I'm waiting to hear Dr. Kakotkar also. So if there is time, I'm happy to listen to any comments or take questions, and I will leave it to Vivek and his team to decide if we have time or not. Before I formally end, happy to answer questions. I said I do want to once again thank MKCL for inviting me and also for facilitating this. And Vivek and his team have been most helpful and kind. And I'm grateful once again to Dr. Kakotkar for having invited me in the first place to come and deliver what I consider this prestigious lecture. Great honor as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Can we take some questions, sir? Can we take some questions?
I'm fine with them. Depending on the time we have, you decide.
If you have any questions, please raise your hand so that we have the cordless mics here. So my colleagues can reach you. Yeah, that's right. So there is a question from this right side.
Hello, sir. I'm Soham. The question I want to ask is, even though right now we are discussing about role of humans in the age of robots and AI, that literally intrigues me, that triggers my thought process in, like, being a human, we are moving towards an inorganic way of evolution. Robots, AI, fine. We are using our thought processes, our mindsets, our whatever the resources that we have towards the inorganic way of life and destroying the organic way in which we are made up of. So are we moving towards something that definitely is a destructive, or there is some kind of constructive wrapped in a different way? Thank you.
Well, no easy answer, I'm afraid. I think you have to answer it for yourself. But yeah, it's unpredictable because I didn't talk of one thing at all. I talked of implants, replacement. But you might find that even your definition of what is a human being will change. If you have 10 things implanted in your body, are you a robo or a human? So it's the ship of Theseus, if some of you have read the ship of Theseus, that it's completely redone, is your thesis. And then what is you? Who are you? Is it your face? Is it your thoughts? Is it your body? Is it your look? It can all change today, except maybe what is deep inside you. So I think these are partly questions of physiology or biology, partly they're questions of metaphysics, philosophy. Undefinable, but each of us have our own answer to what you're asking.
Sir, with AI tools available everywhere, anytime, there is a growing flow of perspective where sometimes domain knowledge is becoming secondary to ability of using AI effectively. How do we balance both?
Yeah, I think you've asked a question which troubles most business organizations particularly, but everybody, not just business organizations. I would say that domain knowledge, I mentioned it in a very difficult way, difficult for me also to put across, that while on the one hand, deep domain knowledge will be more important, just overall domain knowledge can today be completely replaced by AI, frankly. So domain knowledge is no longer, take law. Earlier it was critical to know what law. A good lawyer will quote section B of subsection 2, clause 3 of so-and-so act. Now, who needs all that? It's all there, automated. You just find out. At first, today also you do it, you just ask Google. But it'll be easy and easier with ChatGPT to give you that and 20 other interpretations. So domain itself will become less important to me. I would say that. What will remain, and I do want to mention this in the context of your question, but also more broadly, and I say this very often, not half, but maybe three-quarter in jest, is while AI will do many of these things, one thing AI can't compete with, and humans are on top, because AI will take over most other of these things, including domain, is human stupidity. And I mean this quite seriously, because and some of you are physicists will know and will know better than me, that it was Raman who asked the question, why is the sky blue? What an idiotic question, why is the sky blue? Or Newton said, why does the apple fall? It falls. But what that led to? So, and I give people the example, somebody's computer went bad, and this is partly a true story, and he tried everybody, got all the experts, got the engineers, then he said, I'll get software, he got some AI kind of thing to ask, this is the problem, my computer's not coming on, the screen was there, it's blank, what happened? Nothing happened. Then somebody came, who was probably, a young kid, maybe 12th standard. He said, what, your computer's not working? Oh, so this guy thought young people today are phenomenal at this. This guy has a fix. He had a fix. He put the plug in and switched it on. Many of us do that. Forgot to plug in and say, my computer's not working. So human stupidity has its advantages, stupidity in quotes, that you ask questions which intelligent and AI says, no, that's not a question to ask.
Question? Any other question, please?
Thank you, sir, for the great speech. My question is, considering the rapid growth of AI and robotics, what human skill do you think would be in most demand in future, and how our education system change their curriculum to nurture such skills?
Yeah, I think the second part is easier to answer. I think the education system has to gear itself more and more to learning about how to learn, because skills will keep changing, requirements will keep changing, technology will keep changing. We've seen that even in the past, but now it will be even more so. So after there was a stage when you had stages clearly demarked. You're learning, you're studying, then you're working. Learning's over. Now learning is going to be truly old cliche, lifelong process. But you have to continuously learn. And to learn new things, you have to know how to learn. So the basic foundation has to be strong. But one of the things you've got to learn in your early years, in which good institutions, good teachers will teach you, is how to learn, how to grasp new things, how to think. And that's something which is, more and more critical about, which is why things like critical thinking and analytical skills become more important as base things, foundation. But, I want to repeat this, especially for young people. Foundation skills, I think, are critical. They're never going to go away. You have to have a basic understanding of whatever you're studying, sciences, engineering, and so on. Build certain things in your mind, which then you can build on. But that base is important, and I think we can't minimize that. Now, what kind of jobs and skills Very difficult to say finally. Nobody can predict. But one thing is going to be important, and this is where I don't want to keep repeating, sort of praise for MKCL, but the kind of thing that MKCL is doing is important, because the kind of skills that you require in tomorrow's world, digital and AI is just a given. You just need to, it's like knowing your 3 R's. You have to know reading, writing, and arithmetic. So you have to know digital and AI. You can't do without that in tomorrow's world. Now, what you build on top of that to be able to get a job, build a successful career, continue to learn and continue to hold a job will be different. Jobs in future will also be short-term jobs. If you're not there, it's like gig work. And I don't see careers any longer existing. Frankly, 10, even 5 years from now, careers will stop. Even today, they're stopping. No lifelong job. You work for 5 years, you work on a contract. That's it.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I think a couple of last questions, then we can move to our presentation.
This is actually
Yes,
not a question. I'm trying to answer the questions that people have asked. Domain knowledge is going to be outdated. Transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary,
Yes.
that also AI can do. Actually, I mean interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary. Where the human part will come is in transdisciplinary, where you go beyond one discipline, try to take so many disciplines together, and that is where the human innovativeness and creativity will come. So it is time the youth started thinking transdisciplinary. Thank you.
Just a small comment there. Very well said. I completely agree with you. And I like to give the kind of examples which we see even today. If you look at drone technology, a lot of it comes from biology. Because one of the researches they did was, how do these bees avoid a sudden unforeseen object? Known objects they see and avoid. Suddenly come across and they avoid it. How? And that technology has been integrated into the sensors and the reaction systems. So from biology into, you might say, mechanical, electronic, and physical systems. So you're absolutely right. The transdisciplinary thing and the analogy from one to the other is something which, even to the earlier question, a good reply, is something which will be in greater demand in future than it is even today.
keep it on. Thank you. So, yes, some other question. Yeah, Dr. Sardeshmukh, sir. Can you just give the mic?
I think in the context of whatever you said earlier, the benefits as well as the disadvantages. I think contentment, controlling the AI, I think this has already started, and a lot of debate is happening on that issue, because you don't want death to disappear from this world.
Yes.
So probably like the nuclear policies, we had non-proliferation treaties and all that. There could be treaties like that on AI. After 100 years, no transplant or nothing will happen. Your views on that?
Yeah, no, this is something I normally ask young people. That 2 questions I ask them. One is, if you could implant a memory that remembers everything, what do you think? So first they're excited. You don't have to learn anything. Everything will be there already implanted and updated. So all knowledge is there, but all memory will be there. Now, then I make them think of it a bit, that all memories, including all the bad things, the nasty things you said, somebody said something, then they hesitate a bit. And I ask them the same thing. What if you could live forever? And live forever a healthy life? And first reaction is, how great. To be healthy and live forever, nice. But then you think about it a moment and you start hesitating. So you're right. So, maybe at some point of time there will have to be a treaty, or either at the extreme, and I hate to use that kind of word, but culling. Or you say that beyond a certain stage and age, it's a switch off. That's it. So you pull the switch. Your body is fine. Your systems are working. They're all replaced, but you need to just switch off. And I think that is it. So maybe one has to think. I said these are philosophical questions. Frankly, it's like the ethics of AI. These are deeply philosophical things for which answers are either personal or difficult. But you're right. We need some common understanding. Otherwise, people tend to skew things one way or the other. Good point.
Thank you, sir. Any other question? Yes, sir, please. We'll take this last question if nobody... Okay, yeah, we'll come to you.
I have one small question. In this scenario, what will happen to intellectual property rights and copyrights issue?
No, there are already deep worries about that. I think it's a different field, but there are, because, if something is created or stolen, even today there are copyright issues on data, that what is being used, say, on ChatGPT, they're drawing it from all over. So what of that is copyright? Then there are basic copyright issues. And then there are issues saying, if you have worked with ChatGPT or AI, does the IPR belong to you or partly to that app? And if it's that app, does it belong to the company that devised the app? So there are going to be complex issues, which I think will keep the legal profession employed for some time. They'll get jobs.
Thank you, sir. I think we'll take last question here. Okay. Sir, just 1 second. He's just
The question is, what will be the end of this age of robots and AI? It will be more constructive than today, or it will be destructive end of this age?
Well, I'm very hopeful, so I would go by the first, that it will be very constructive. But some people say it will be the end of human species. Take your choice.
Okay.
Beyond me anyway, for younger people you have to worry about.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for the very great lecture. Myself, Harshal, I am a biology teacher, and I usually tell my student the human brain is the most complex machine ever made. My wife is assistant professor at engineering college. Her department is AI/ML. I asked one question to her, which I got not a satisfactory answer. Is that possible to replace the human brain with the help of machine learning or neural technology or neural data processing or language processing?
Your wife being a teacher will give you a right answer and then you can argue over it at home all day. But I would say you use the word is wrong. It will be possible, according to me. But there are parts of the human brain that contain things which the earlier philosophical question is, what is you? It defines you. That may be difficult. But the functional part of neural processing, of just memory, of taking all the integrating your inputs from your body, your sensor inputs from eyes, ears, tongue, whatever, and putting them out, or doing whatever other functions the brain does as a pure functionality, will certainly be possible. I don't think it's too far to see that. Now, how much of it can be part organic, part electronic? Is it 100% electronic? You don't know. But I don't have any doubt that decade, 2 decades, 3 decades from now, it will be possible. You can do a brain replacement, as I said earlier, like you do a knee replacement.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we should move on a little. I really thank you, sir, for this deep, insightful lecture. And I must say that we need to now quickly start learning to learn how we can be, meaningfully stupid, so that, we will continue to be humans, and that deep seek within, pun intended. So that must be, taken care. That's what the insights that we can get from your lecture. Now, as we move on, I request Dr. Anil Kakodkar, sir, to please offer his presidential remarks. And thank you, Dr. Karnik, sir.
Thank you.
Friends, what a great lecture. I feel like having come out of a movie theater watching a great film. Mr. Karnik, thank you so much for that kind of an experience. And as a first takeaway, I do wish all teachers are like you and put their students through the kind of experience you have put us through. This lecture, second in series of Professor Ram Takwale Memorial Lectures. The intention of this lecture series, of course, Mr. Vivek Sawant is the philosopher, thinker behind shaping this lecture, but the intention was exactly what the experience we went through, in the sense, as societies, as human beings, how do we prepare ourselves for the transitions that this debate which is bothering everybody around, or that last question, at the end of the day, whether this will end up in a very constructive finish or a very destructive finish. So obviously we want to, as a part of learning process or as a part of a collective objective of all of us as human beings, the humanity, how do we conduct ourselves? And so Professor Takwale always used to talk about a kind of transformation to be ready for a new age society. I don't know what was the time duration he thought about that new age society from now to up to how many years. But Sri Karnik has taken us through, I don't know, 50 years or 100 years or only a few decades or much longer, I don't know. But it only tells me that the social transformation agenda that we have before us in MKCL is a much deeper and far more challenging topic than we have kind of thought it to be. And I think that is the most important takeaway of this lecture. India has, of course, we talked about demographic dividend, young people. So in the context of the short term, which Sri Karnik talked about, of course there is a huge challenge, job loss, reskilling, retraining, re-educating if it is required. And how to sort of do that. So our demographic dividend is certainly one strong point that we have. The other strong point is AI is essentially kind of crucially dependent on the data. And I think India is the largest custodian of data for a variety of things. So can we, as an organization like MKCL or other similarly placed organizations, can we leverage that data and that demographic dividend and prepare ourselves to address the short-term challenge ahead of the time frame in which this challenge will emerge? So it's a race, but can we do that? That, I think, is something which is both an important challenge to address, but also an important business opportunity. So, so this is something which I think we all need to reflect about. Finally, I think this entire business of what will happen at the end of the day, now whether machine will take over or we will be able to survive, it comes back to this basic question about not just learning, but also upbringing. How right from the early childhood we all grow as human beings, and what is the role upbringing plays in that. There may be aspects of deep cultural evolution. There may be aspects of something which we simply do, well, because our parents tell us to do, because our teachers tell us to do, course, as good students, we have to ask questions. But at the same time, to be able to distinguish between how far we go through that process of doubting and questioning everything, and where we take things for granted. I know some of you may not like such a comment, but I think at the end of the day, as human beings, as a part of this learning process, there is merit to, I'm not talking about there is merit to an individual's wisdom or knowledge, but there is merit to the distilled evolution which has taken place over generations, and some very fundamental meaning behind that. And that, if we are able to distinguish and make sure that we do remain on the inquiry mode all the time, but also understand where we stop, I think we will be able to at least make sure that, again, come back to the same question, that we will end up this so-called harmony between machine and humans, and end up in a constructive outcome, leading to what many in the common today's IT society lingo call the work-life balance. But nothing wrong if I can earn all that I require for my living in let's say working on 10% of the time or 5% of the time, and rest of the time I devote without, of course, being frustrated and becoming a sort of nervous wreck, but be able to remain engaged with myself or the society in the most constructive and most creative way. I think the world will become very beautiful after all. But the question is, how do we get there? That's a thing for all of us to reflect on. And so I think today, when you come out of a theater, we always say, how was the movie? And then we keep debating. So I think we have this lecture to debate, discuss for maybe weeks or days or even longer. So thank you, Mr. Karnik, for this wonderful lecture. And I hand over to Revati for a formal vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Today's evening has been really an intellectual feast. And, I'm sure, sir, just like we have some food photographs on Insta going viral, we'll have this lecture also going viral, so that a lot of debate will happen across, many people who are really concerned about building our future. I'm here to give a formal vote of thanks. First and foremost, the young and active board of MKCL and the representatives who are present here, Dr. Sir Deshmukh sir, Professor Sonawane sir. I will also mention Dr. Vijay Bhatkar sir, so many thanks. MG Takwale sir also is present here. I've missed Dr. D.B. Phatak sir, sorry sir, so I sincerely thank you for being present here. Lastly, I would also like to thank our chief mentor, though I know that he won't like me mentioning his name, but it has been his vision to have such kind of lecture series, and that's the way we actually get to listen to such eminent personalities. So thank you, sir, for that. And finally, all of you who are present here, thank you, because you have been quite intellectually engaged in this lecture, and so also we got such good questions. So thank you so much. I formally conclude this event. Thanks a lot.